Hey, Brittany, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ronnie. How are you today?
I was on your website earlier today. I absolutely love what you are doing. Give us the background to Black Girl MATHgic.
Thank you so much. So, Black Girl MATHgic is at its core, it's a movement, but for brevity's sake, it is the first and only monthly subscription box designed to increase math confidence and decrease math anxiety, with a focus on girls who we are, I think, are all know have had issues with their math confidence more than a boy does, not only, but more than a boy does. With a focus on girls between the third to eighth grade math level.
With that, Brittany, how does this actually work? And how did you have to change what you were doing because of the pandemic?
So we are largely an e-commerce operation. So we actually, thankfully, did not have a lot of really detrimental changes. The biggest changes we experienced were, of course, the slowdown in postal service. So a few unhappy customers every now and then, but not too many because they understood that, everything that was going on. So people just go on our website and order. They can subscribe to our box. It is a monthly subscription, much like a Hello Fresh or any of those commercials you see where they ship food to the house and the family's cooking and they're very happy. Or people also can purchase a one-time box if they just want to try it out or get it for a family member for the holidays or for their birthday.
What's so fun about this to me is when I was on your website, it seems like too, it's one of those things to engage the kids because I think a lot of them are zoomed out right now because of all of the classes being remote.
Yes, and that's one of the hallmarks of our product. And we actually launched in 2019, so way before COVID. But the goal was to create a screen-free activity, a screen-free product, just to give kids a break from the screen and to get back to some old school things like reading physical books and playing with physical manipulatives.
Oh my God. So when I was growing up, every Saturday morning was set aside to go to the library and get my new
Yeah,
books for the week. Like I used to read constantly. But it does seem to kind of be going away right now. But I love that you're bringing the math into it because it can be intimidating. But understanding math and science opens up pathways to futures, and we need to get the kids engaged and loving these subjects early on as well.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's been data coming out recently about, we already know about summer learning loss in general in a normal climate around math and reading, and math tends to be slightly higher than reading in terms of the loss. But now with COVID, there's even been some projections that kids are going to be losing up to a year. And when we say losing, we don't mean like, oh, they're going to be so behind. It's just they're going to be losing what they've already learned, which of course is not the goal. We want them to maintain and strengthen, not lose. And so the box allows them an opportunity to really brush up on those basics and keep those at the forefront.
Brittany Rhodes with I have in my notes here, it's like Brittany. Is that how you,
Yes,
instead of Brittany?
yes, you said it perfectly. Kind of like Tiffany, right? We don't say
Brittany.
Tiffany, we say Tiffany. It's the same kind of, it's in the same vein there.
Well, Brittany Rhodes with us. She's the founder for Black Girl MATHgic. This is so fun to me though. But what is your background? How did you get attracted into the math world?
So I am born and raised Detroiter and the daughter of a retired Detroit principal. My mom was a principal for almost 20 years here in the city. And, education was just always a big deal in our house. It was really a non-negotiable. And I just loved school. I loved to learn and I loved math. Just from the beginning of time, I don't remember a time where I didn't love math. It was always my favorite subject in school. And the more I get into Black Girl MATHgic and running my business, the more I kind of can identify why, and that's because math matches very much with my personality as a kid. I was very much a rule follower, very analytical, and it just kind of worked. And I went to college in Atlanta. I graduated from Spelman College, and I received my Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. And then I went on to Pittsburgh and got my MBA at the Tepper School of Business at Carnegie Mellon. And at that time, I thought I wanted to go into the consumer packaged goods world and do brand management, but of course life had a different path. So I had a few other jobs and things that I did over time. And then I ended up coming back home to Detroit. I was gone for 10 years. And I came back home because I was tired of defending Detroit in other places. People had really the meanest things to say, you know, when they would find out where I was from. And I had a great childhood, a great upbringing, and I wanted to come back home and help be a part of the solution. So I moved back home about 9 years ago, and I just dove headfirst into the nonprofit world. I worked for Focus Hope, and then my most recent job before I left to start my business, I was the director of community engagement for the Belle Isle Conservancy for almost 4 years, right after state management, helping, you know, navigate some of the controversy around that. And I've always been a tutor. So while I was doing all these things, I was a math tutor on the side. It was kind of like my side hustle, my gig, but also my passion. And when I noticed over the years that a lot of my students, particularly the middle and high school students, when they would come to me needing help with, say, algebra or geometry, and we would start digging into the work, it actually wasn't algebra or geometry that they were really struggling with. It was basic mathematics. So the part where you got to divide by a fraction or multiply by a negative number, and they haven't quite mastered what to do there, it just makes everything else feel so hard. It's like, just throw the whole subject away. And so I wanted to do something about that. And I was really in love with the subscription box model because math anxiety is a thing, and it's not something that you just get over overnight. You have to work at it consistently. You can't just have one great math experience and then, oh, now you're healed. You know, it takes time. And so the subscription box model allowed me to do that.
It really is a great model. My brother-in-law is a math teacher as well, and I really worry about so many of these students, especially in cities such as Detroit and Pontiac, that are being remote taught right now, because let's just admit, there's old math and there's new math. And I remember when my nephew was like in 5th grade, I'm like, what is this? I had no clue. I'm like, no, we're going back. 1 + 1 is 2. So what is that gap? Like, we laugh about it as adults because we're like, hey, no, we're going back to old school math. But really, there's going to be, I think, that big gap for some of the kids as they get back into the classrooms as well.
Yeah, so some of that, you know, the conversation we have, especially for those of us, you know, adults talking about new math. So, you know, that was when Common Core was introduced. And depending on who you talk to, so some math teachers and math practitioners, you know, they say, well, that's actually not new math. That's actually going back to how math was taught or how it was introduced, and then we came and messed it up, basically. So it's really just a different approach, because one of the big things that kids have to have mastery in is place value, and we were seeing that place value mastery was not where it needed to be, and so then that it has a trickle down effect and causes issues in other areas. And so that was Common Core. One of the goals was to get back to those basics and really help kids visualize math in a different way. So, you know, funny enough, so some of my students, when I first started tutoring here in Detroit a few years ago, a lot of my kids had Common Core homework, and I would have to excuse myself for a couple minutes and go on Google and teach myself how to do it that way. But now I'm seeing it sometimes with my students, but not all the time. For me, in my box, I include a math activity booklet each month for both 3rd to 5th and 6th to 8th, depending on which box family is ordering. And I don't do any curriculum. I don't do any I just want a kid to access math in the way that makes sense to them. So I do provide an answer key each month, but it's really just, okay, how do you look at this problem? And here are multiple ways to approach the problem, but never like, oh, you must do it this way, because that sometimes, you know, can really take a shot at a child's math esteem if they're being told you did it wrong because you did it a different way, but it actually was right. You know, how does that make somebody feel? So I try to shy away from all of those things, but I also have been trying to understand why things are the way they are so I can explain it to my children.
Well, Brittany, I will say, I think that you can probably come up with a second line of revenue stream by having one of these kits for adults and for the parents as well. You know?
Yeah, Yeah, and we do include a caring adult guide. And I've had, oh my goodness, so many adult women pre-COVID when we would be at events, they would come up and say, where were you when I was 12? Or I needed you, 20 years ago. And I say, hey, we don't discriminate. You can order for yourself too.
But I will say, there is a lot of importance in this as well because it goes beyond just getting good grades in school. It's also
Absolutely.
about putting them on a pathway of success for their futures.
Absolutely. And for kids to just see how math exists in the real world. I think part of my business is my chip on my shoulder from all the times, I've heard my students say, well, I don't need this. When am I going to use this? I don't need math to do X, Y, Z. And it's like, whatever X, Y, and Z is, you actually do need math, even if you don't want to go into STEM. If you want to be an architect, if you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a pastry chef, if you want to be a news reporter, basic math is going to show up in some kind of way. And I even have some students who are interested in the military and they kind of think, they can just walk in and, be in the Army or be in the Navy. And it's like, no, you got to take a test. And guess what's on that test? A lot of math, the math that you learned in elementary and middle school. And if you are not taking it seriously now, it's going to come back and bite you later.
I will say, I am so wishing I would have paid so much closer attention to the stat class I had to take in college. We weren't
Yeah.
allowed to use the calculator.
Yeah.
It was one of the hardest classes. In fact, I started out as an economics. I wanted to do international business and then micro econ. I was like, forget it. I'll go into something else. I'm more creative anyway. But it really is about that math and understanding it. And it comes into so many different aspects of life.
Absolutely.
It's just understanding where that is as well. With that, though, where do you hope to take this business going forward?
Well, that's a wonderful question. So, as I mentioned, the subscription box is focused on 3rd to 8th grade math, and we serve people of all races and ethnicities, and we want to continue doing that. But of course, we wanted to create a product where a girl, especially a girl of color, could very clearly see herself in the math star seat in a world where she doesn't often feel that way. And we have a lot of data and research to back that up. And we recently launched a kindergarten through 2nd grade box. It's not a subscription, it's more of a one-time bundle because we were getting so many parents of younger kids asking us, well, what about my kindergarten? What about my 1st grader? So we do have that available. And we have been entertaining a boy box, and that actually was one of our big projects for 2020. But of course, COVID happened, so it fell to the wayside. So we are looking at a boy box. And also, other products and experiences. We were doing workshops before COVID. We've had a chance to do some virtual workshops. We love to do more of those. And I'm actively working on a few children's books around math confidence mindset so we can get the kids earlier and earlier, believing that they're math people and that they have what it takes to perform math at a high level. So definitely stay tuned. We have a lot in the pipeline.
So, because of the pandemic, has it actually helped your business in a way because schools are remote right now and this gives kids and especially girls a new way of learning?
Yes, it really has. We saw so last summer, in the thick of the beginning of this thing. Summer is typically a slow time in general for the subscription box industry. And we saw one of the largest growths, but I think it was between May and June that we had ever seen before in the summer. And we were just like, whoa, what's happening? And then on top of that, we also have our B2B channel where we do partner directly with schools, districts, and youth serving organizations, and we do bulk orders for them. And we have been seeing, more interest in that. It kind of died down at the beginning of COVID, but as things somewhat, I don't even know if I want to use the word normalized, but as schools kind of were figuring out their next steps, now we're having more conversations. So yeah, we definitely saw a lot of growth, a lot of interest, parents and teachers. We do have teachers who subscribe as well and use it in their classrooms. They were just like, we just need something different. We need a new way to approach this and to make it fun. Every box we feature a different woman mathematician. So there's not just math, it's like history and reading and ELA and all of these other cross-curricular opportunities. And so we do a real world theme every month. So it was just really this opportunity to step outside of like what we think math is and to approach math from a fun and interesting way. And we definitely saw a lot of growth because families, were looking for something to do and looking for something to keep their kids not only productively busy, but also engaged in learning.
What is the monthly cost? And if someone is interested, how can they find out more about the product?
So the subscription boxes are $39.95 a month plus shipping, and then of course tax for Michigan residents. And all of our information is on our website, blackgirlmathgic.com, and we're also on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
Well, Brittany Rhodes with us. She's the founder of Black Girl MATHgic. We are so lucky that you came back to Detroit. Thank you for doing so.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
We need so many people like you and more to come back to the state of Michigan, and also extend our gratitude to, I believe you said it was your mother who was a principal in
Yeah,
DPS.
yeah. Well, she was in the charter system, but she as a principal, but she did work in DPS for many years as well.
Oh my gosh, I bet she has so many stories.
Yes, yes, she does.
Well, we are so lucky to have you back in the community, and we wish you continued success with your company and the project as well. We hope it continues to grow. And you know what? We need positive stories such as yours right now. So thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Ronnie.